I am not a financial advisor. I am affiliated with the XX network. Most things I worry about never happen anyway. Tom Petty.
The remittance market, while it did stall a bit during the COVID, is projected to continue to grow. It's a $750 billion market. And that money that is sent across borders, as we've all seen from living in this region, is often done at usurious rates of 6-7%. It takes days to arrive. If it does at all, that money leaves workers' hands that have worked hard for that money, and their family needs it on the other end quickly. Just yesterday, I went down to Lucky Plaza in Singapore with a lady that is close to our family. Emergency need in the Philippines. We went to BKK Forex, which is a RippleNet partner, an ODL adopter as well. And that payment transferred over RippleNet through BKK Forex. Again, just the ability to have certainty. This is the hospital bill on the other end, and you just can't afford to have that go lost in 4 days, nor take 7% out of it. So this is a great one, and we're excited about what we're doing.
Brooks mentions BKK Forex. They're a Singapore company, and they have a license with the Central Bank of Singapore. So down here it says licensed by Monetary Authority of Singapore. If you've been following my previous episodes, you know that the Monetary Authority of Singapore is really forward-leaning. There's a lot of crypto regulations that are happening in Singapore, as well as some crypto companies getting licenses. BKK Forex is rapidly expanding its market presence in Southeast Asia, as well as new partnerships and tie-ups with international giants like Western Union, MoneyGram, RIA, and CIMB. We know Western Union had a proof of concept with Ripple. They've been mentioned quite a few times as a partner, but the official announcement is they had a proof of concept that later Western Union backed out. But we know MoneyGram, RIA, and CIMB are all partners. MoneyGram also had to back out of their ODL relationship just because of the SEC lawsuit. But CIMB is a pretty large bank in Malaysia. Now, it says that they're working in Taiwan, Malaysia, China, South Korea, Indonesia, Philippines, India, Bangladesh. And these are all very active regions with ODL adoption, as well as Ripple partners. So CIMB is a Malaysian bank, and it's the second largest Malaysian bank in the area.
We're also doing work around carbon credits, which is another very interesting market with all kinds of issues around it. But blockchain applicability and tokenizing of carbon credits, we think on our blockchain or others, has real opportunity as well. So we're very excited, away from all the noise and hype and every conference and other activities that are going on around the world. There's real businesses being built. And I think we're just, to your earliest question about paradigm shift, we're finding these in almost all of these applications.
Second, we need to put the right price on carbon. Right now, the global price is around $2 a ton. To achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement, it would need to reach around $75 a ton.
Governments have agreed to make global warming a priority. Right now, the SEC is pushing for companies to have ESG disclosures. This is where the company will have to account for things like carbon offsets. There's a lot of problems with this market because it's opaque. Blockchain technology is a great use case for carbon credits. It's transparent, immutable, and you're able to verifiably account for the offset. In previous videos, I showed the partnership with Guild 1 and Cardano, but also Hedera, Energy Web Token, Algorand, and of course XRP are a few chains that are accommodating this market. Kristalina Georgieva is saying they are going to push the price of carbon offsets up. The protocols that get used by the big businesses will create demand for the tokens in the network.
The answer is yes, we think it's possible, but there's still a large amount of work to be done. And the really exciting part is we can look at what's happening in the cryptocurrency world. We have very strongly privacy-preserving coins in the cryptocurrency world. That technology exists and it works. It's not perfect. There's still data. Data is a sneaky thing. Once it gets out there, it's out there. So you really have to think very carefully about how to secure it properly. But we have a lot that we can bring over from the cryptocurrency world, which has been integral in encouraging cryptography development in zero-knowledge proofs and multi-party computation and homomorphic encryption and just regular plain old encryption, which works very well. So we have a lot of these tools and these techniques that we can bring to bear in the central bank digital currency problem, but it's not just a technology question. The technology might be there, but making it work practically is the real challenge, and making it fit into regulatory regimes or helping alter those regulatory regimes to be more cogent and more coherent in the world, in this new world of technology, is also going to be a vital part of this. But I'm optimistic. I think that there's a lot we can do. I'm especially optimistic because we speak to a lot of central banks around the world. So at MIT, we're working with the Boston Fed, the Bank of Canada, and the Bank of England on a research collaboration around technology for CBDC. And everyone ranks privacy very high on their agenda, and no central bank that we speak to wants to become a surveillance state. They don't want that data. They want to learn how they can be privacy preserving.
Naheen Urla works for MIT in studying CBDCs and digital currencies for the U.S. government. The Fed, as well as Congress, uses her research as guidance. She talked about the need for privacy. Most Western central banks want a layer of privacy, and the technologies they are studying are privacy coins. She says data can be sneaky, but the XX network has created a method to shred metadata. Usually when you use a privacy app, there is metadata that can be recorded, but the XX network will shred this data. Chris Larson, Roger Ver, and others are seed investors.
Unfortunately, the answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that historically, if you've entered the crypto market after it's drawn down 50% or more, you've tended to do well over time. In fact, from a 3-year holding period, you've profited in every single example. I think what's going on in the market right now is that we've had a macro adjustment. We've moved from a risk-on market to a risk-off market. You've seen that impact everything from tech stocks to crypto. Until that macro market normalizes, I don't know that we're at the very bottom of the crypto market. But what I can tell you is that under the surface, the fundamentals of crypto are stronger than ever. The number of developers working in crypto, the amount of venture capital activity, the amount of new good ideas, the number of users, those are all trending up and to the right. It's just being suppressed by this negative macro environment. Once that macro environment normalizes, I think we could get a sharp rebound in crypto, and that could happen maybe in the second half of this year.
Capital Group issued a report about the U.S. midterm elections, and as you know, the midterm elections are in November. Matt Hogan states that, he thinks that in the second half of this year we'll see some relief, and that lines up to what this report says. It says that, the markets go sideways and downwards, so they oscillate for most of the year, gaining little ground until shortly after the elections. And you can see in this chart, right before the elections take place, we start seeing a price appreciation, and while all the other years, you have this up and to the right movement. The old adage that markets don't like uncertainty, and that seems to apply here. So the midterm elections, it's uncertain who's going to get in. More than often, markets bounce back strongly after U.S. elections are over. Since 1950s, the equity markets have moved up 15.1%. compared to other similar years, and you can see that this chart too, it's up and to the left right after the midterm election. So there's a strong correlation that we'll see relief in the equity market, which will transfer over to the crypto markets because the crypto markets are tightly correlated to the equity markets.
They do have to wait. They're under Congress's jurisdiction. They don't have their own little fiefdom, whether it's the SEC, whether it's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the FDIC. This is obviously theirs to oversee and theirs to implement, but they take their direction from Congress. So I would argue they do have to wait for Congress. Look, when it comes to the legislation that's moving, and let's go back. I didn't just say that about that regulator. What he admitted to, which is huge news, the enforcement director for the SEC admitted that they are sending sweep letters to parties outside of their jurisdiction. This is huge. This shows you that they are not staying within their lane. They have no interest in doing the job of protecting the American investor and opportunities that are out there. They're literally using their authority as a shakedown authority where they send out sweep letters allegedly asking for voluntary information. And when they don't get what they want, they make it miserable for the party outside of government. That's not the way it's supposed to work. So, look, we've got 11 legislative days left before the midterms, and we've got only 28 legislative days left in the year. It's unlikely that any crypto legislation is going to move this year, but highly likely, I would say, that it's going to move next year.
We're seeing a lot of friction between the CFTC and the SEC. If you recall, on March 9th, 2022, there was an executive order on digital assets. And in the executive order, it states that there is 180 days for each of these agencies to issue a report. Now we're seeing these two agencies kind of have a turf war over these different digital assets. And 180 days from March 9th, 2022 is Monday, September 5th, 2022. That's going to be right before the midterm elections.
Yeah, I think the biggest risk continues to be on the regulatory side. Look, there's very limited risk that I see about the core technology. Crypto and blockchain allows money and property rights to exist on the internet in a native way. And it's going to disrupt the way the traditional financial ecosystem works over the next 3, 5, and 10 years. I don't see much that can derail that. But over regulation or poorly structured regulation could slow that process down. There's certainly a lot of discussion in Washington right now about how we should regulate the crypto market, and it's worth monitoring how that comes out. If they get it right, it could spark the next big bull market in crypto, but if they get it wrong, it could extend this crypto winter. And of course, regulators are human, so we don't know exactly how it will turn out, but that's what I worry about more
than jurisdictional issues. The SEC needs oversight badly. They need to start answering why they're doing what they're doing. They clearly don't want to give up any jurisdiction, even jurisdiction they don't have, by suggesting that every token out there is a security, which just isn't a fact.
Proper regulations are a catalyst for the next bull market. Institutional investors, sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, this is capital that's coming to the crypto market when they know for certain that their investment isn't going to be destroyed by regulators. When this money flows in, we'll have liquidity and investment for utility. Right now, there are bureaucrats throwing wrenches in the work by applying 1930s law to modern technology. This is in the process of changing.
But one thing that is important to highlight, though, is that Tom Emmer is the ranking member, so the most senior Republican for the Oversight subcommittee. And that is the subcommittee that oversees the SEC. It's more than likely the Republicans will take back the House in November. Probably not the Senate, but they're going to definitely take back the House, it looks like. So Tom Emmer is going to be the guy who's going to be overseeing the SEC in Congress. And the major question is, this is a guy, as if you're Chair Gensler, you probably don't want to make him angry and vice versa. So this is going to be a very interesting dynamic, and to take such a tone with Representative Emmer is definitely striking. I think we're going to see a lot more similar letters from Representative Emmer on the situation, but I would not expect much from Chair Gensler anytime soon.
If the Republicans take the House, Emmer will be overseeing the SEC. Gensler will have to answer to Emmer. I have listened to a lot of interviews with Emmer, and he has been quite vocal about his disapproval for Gensler's regulatory methods. Emmer writes on Twitter, unelected bureaucrats have taken advantage of the federal rulemaking process for far too long. I replied back to him, Gensler is laughing at you.
I definitely think it'll be after the midterms, but the good thing is that there's bipartisan support for the bills that we've seen going through Congress right now. There's one, the Stabenow-Boozman bill is one that we've looked at closely, and it does create a comprehensive crypto regulatory framework with more clear definitions of commodities and securities and other things, stable coins. So I think, yeah, I think crypto is one of the few bipartisan issues where that people in Congress are really enjoying collaborating on right now, is what somebody told me, at least when I was in DC last. So that was pretty encouraging to see, and I think regardless of what happens in the midterms, I don't think anything will change.
Democrats and Republicans can't agree on anything, but they're agreeing on crypto regulations.
Until Congress starts to exercise its authority, because Congress deserves a ton of criticism for not doing anything to help direct these bureaucracies, these regulators, to do their job, right? But I would argue that right now, Biden's regulators are acting lawlessly because my colleagues, Democrats in Congress who have the power, have not exercised their oversight responsibility over the very regulators they confirm. That will change when the power center changes. But here, I'll just go through some of the regulators. You know that I'm very critical of Chair Gensler at the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's because of the extra jurisdictional enforcement crusade against the crypto community and a complete disregard for proper rulemaking. We have to address that. The FDIC, under Acting Director Gruenberg, his, I would argue, shady efforts to deter banks from doing business with crypto companies. Lawrence, your question suggests they're damned if they do and damned if they don't, but that's not what they're doing. They literally are trying to put up roadblocks from the evolution that's in front of us, and there's more.
CoinsPH and OKRemit have jointly launched an on-demand liquidity service on RippleNet. Today's announcement is a game changer for over 300,000 Filipinos living in Japan. OKRemit is to connect to CoinsPH and the digital asset platform SBI VC Trade. XRP is a bridge between the fiat currencies of Japan and the Philippines. Japan and the Philippines has totaled an approximate $1.6 billion in remittances. The rest of the world is regulating crypto in a positive manner. The US will take some time, but it will come.
Week at the company, and our overall goal is really to help drive regulatory clarity on a global scale. I tweeted out something about this recently, showing a breakdown of every G20 country. Our policy team is meeting with most of those countries, and sort of where we're seeing no regulation, pending regulation, and clear regulation for crypto. And it's just compared to 2 years ago, it's like night and day. There's basically pending legislation or active clear legislation for crypto in almost every G20 across major categories now. So I think this is really good, and it's not widely known, is that like even here in the US, I think we'll see probably a comprehensive crypto bill, hopefully passed next year. And what that'll mean is just with that clarity emerging, there'll be a lot more institutional money flowing into crypto.
Brian Armstrong thinks that hopefully regulations will come next year. I think television's become a downright dangerous thing. It has no moral barometer whatsoever. If you want to talk about something that is all about money, just watch the television. Tom Petty. Thanks everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon.